Hey chess fans, today I'm going to be doing my very first chess puzzle episode. In this episode I'm going to be explaining my thought process as I go through the puzzles, and I'm going to be seeing how far I can go. If I get one wrong, the streak ends, and if I keep getting them right, it goes on. So let's begin. In this puzzle, the very first threat that I see, what I look for first is attacks or threats. And the first threat that I see is queen to h7 because the bishop is guarding that diagonal. And I always look for threats, attacks, and then, I look for both of those things first. Then I look for other things that could possibly be dangerous for the other opponent. So this is the very first puzzle. They start off easy and then they get harder. And the first puzzle is going to be queen to h7. And that's correct. The first threat that I see is queen takes pawn on f7, and then he moves. Once that happens, he'll move to king h8 right here. Then I'll just move queen to g7. So take the pawn, and that's correct. First threat that I automatically see in this puzzle is obviously a check, but what's the follow-up? Okay, after I check him, he's going to move down. Then I can move here, which forks the king and the queen, and then I can pick up the queen. Let's try it. It's right. So far. There. Down here, it shows that I have a streak of 3, if you want to pay attention on how many I've gotten so far. And in this game, first check or threat that I see is take the pawn. Looks pretty dangerous, and once he moves out of the way, I can pick up the queen. It's pretty devastating. That's correct. In this one, the first thing that I see is knight to f2 automatically, but then what can he do? He can either move king here, or he can move king there. What does that do? If he moves his king here, there's no... Oh, yeah, I can take the rook. If he moves his king there, I can also take the rook. Okay, that's it. Knight to f2. And just take the rook. If you are also going to try to do chess puzzles, I would recommend always going for the attack first. It's the quickest thing, or the check that seems like a threat. And usually the puzzles get harder, so it may not be that once you get to some of the higher streaks. But in the easier puzzles, then it's easiest to look for checks or attacks first. So the first attack that I see is f2 right here. It threatens, it's actually mate in 2. Yeah, that's mate in 2. Then I move g1. That was correct. Oh, this one, the first check that I see is here, and that also happens to be mate. So that has to be it. I'm on 7. The first check that I see is pawn push. But then what can he do? It's a check. Then he'll guard. Then I can move behind, and his pawn can't escape. I'm pretty sure that's it. Yep. Then move here. It's also opposition because I'm guarding these 2 squares where the king can guard his pawn. So there's no way he can save it. First thing I see is take the bishop, but what's the follow-up? He moves here, you can check there, that's mate. What is the starting of this one? The first check that I see, this seems natural. It also could be this. Actually, I think it's this. And then once you move there, I'm going to check and then pick up the rook. Yeah, that's it. First threat that I see, actually, this one, the first threat that I see is check right here. But the reason why the bishop can't take is because it's pinned to the king with the other bishop. So this one is a more complicated one, but if you can look for pins, that will help a lot. So this bishop is pinned, so you can check and then mate him. The first attack that I see that isn't really, I think it's take the rook, and then he's forced to take back with the king. Oh, and then you can take the pawn and pick up the bishop. You always have to look for those forks. They're really devastating. Then you take the pawn with check, and then you can also take the bishop. I love forks. Knights are my favorite piece in chess, so forks are like my favorite thing. The first thing that I automatically see is moving king to here, because the king is attacked by the pawn and it kind of forks the pawn and the rook. Actually, it is devastating, because if you move here, where can the rook go? It can't go anywhere. It can't go there, because the rook and the king can take it. It can't go here because the pawn is guarding, and those are its only squares. So I'm pretty sure it's this to trap the rook. Yes, it is. And then you take, and when he promotes, I don't know why he didn't promote to a queen. I guess he knew it was going to be taken, so he just promoted something ridiculous, and you just take back. First thing I see is check here, because then once he moves out of the way, you can pick up the queen and win material. Automatically out of reflex, I see this, and then he will probably take the pawn, and you can bring your queen all the way across, which is mate. Just so you know, the reason why puzzles are so important is because they help you see things quick, and why I'm pretty quick at seeing these puzzles is because I've practiced a lot and I play puzzles a lot, and they help you in real game situations. So they'll help you to be able to get things quicker, just in case you're in a fast chess game, or so you can just pick it up quicker out of reflex. First thing that I see is this one's a tricky one. The first thing that I see is move here, because then his king move must be there, or actually he could push a pawn. Well, never mind. Ignore that. What I see is here, because once he takes, you can take back, and then your pawn is unstoppable. Goes all the way to promote. Not always the first thing that you see is what the puzzle is. Just because I'm seeing a few of these before I actually play it, doesn't mean that everything is what you first see and you think is good. Like, I first thought this was good, but it's really not. That doesn't really do anything. Pushing the pawn does stuff. So if you're in a game and you're just playing what you think is best first, it's not exactly the best thing to do. First thing I think I see, this is a tricky one. It's more of an advanced one for beginners. You take the take the knight with the rook. Why you do that is because his only choice is to move out of the way, which would be that would be silly, because then you can take the queen, right? But his other option is, after you take this, to take with the queen. Some people may be thinking, why would you do that? Because that's just losing material. But what you do after that is take the pawn, which forks the knight and the queen after they take it. So some of these harder puzzles, you need to use foresight to see, like, to look a few moves ahead. And once you get better, it will become easier and quicker. So take. They didn't let me finish it, but it was a fork. In this puzzle, the first thing that I see is take the knight. And the reason why I think that's the correct move is because, one, it's a free knight, and two, if he takes the queen, you just take back and win material. And if he doesn't take back and just sits there, well, he's going to get taken because the knight's undefended, right? So I'm going to take the knight, then take back with the pawn. And now he's attacking with the rook. There's really only one spot to move here. So that has to be it. First thing I see is, first thing I see is a check. Because then once he moves or blocks or anything, you can take the knight. It's a free knight hanging. Take the knight. This one I see is a check and then take the bishop. For this one, it's take the knight. Well, actually, it might not be. It's actually take the pawn, I believe, because then his queen takes back, you can take back, and then you win a queen. Or he doesn't take back. Either way, you win a queen. For this one, I see the pawn take here. That probably isn't the best move, though. Let me see. This looks kind of devastating, but he can just move out of the way. This looks like it's attacking this, I guess. Looks pretty good. Maybe, actually, you can't do this because it's pinned to the king. Ignore that. Maybe it's check, then when he moves down, yeah, there's really no follow-up. I think it has to be take the pawn. Uh-oh, it wasn't it. The move was to check, then he moves back, then take the pawn, and then you would get the rook. Aw, man. Well, it doesn't matter. I did pretty good. I got 21, and even though I got it wrong, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, you can always start over and build a new high streak. And that's the end of this video for today. Please like and subscribe for more.